Hello everyone, welcome back to our project review. Today we'll be talking about a mixed development. I think it's quite anticipated. So I think one of the questions that our viewer have is this. For mixed development, is there a need to pay a premium for the convenience? I think the analogy, right, is this. For parents, I think you guys will understand if you bring your kids for enrichment. If you have two kids and you try to pack it on a Saturday, for example, one of them goes in the morning and the other one goes in the afternoon. So you will end up being in the mall the entire day. Some people call it wandering souls because you need to find things to do in the mall. And for those that are actually wandering, you probably end up in a cafe for 4 to 5 hours or go for a foot massage. So if this is repeated over and over again, would you want to pay for the convenience? Because if you are staying in a mixed or an integrated development, you are able to just send your kids downstairs and then go up and continue with your work. Today, we will be talking about a project, a mixed development in District 18, specifically in Tampines West. So this development is called Pinery Residences. So if you see from the picture, actually, the developer already has started work on this development. So hopefully, this development will TOP sooner rather than later. So for Pinery Residence, we are expecting her to review from 14 March onwards. And today what we will cover is 1, the usual project information. Secondly, I think we need to dive deeper. Is it worth paying a premium for a mixed or integrated development? And we will show you how does it compare with the neighboring projects. And lastly, why would people still consider Pinery Residences? So where is Pinery Residence located? This is where we are at in the actual site. It's about 3 minutes walk from Tampines West MRT. And if you want to compare where is Revel at Tampines, this is the other EC plot that is also going to preview soon. In terms of the project information, the developer is a joint venture between Hoi Hub Realty and Sunway Development. The site area of 23,500 over square meters with a plot ratio of 2.63. The total number of units is 588 with a total of 6 blocks of 14-story units. Couple lots have been located at 80% and you are expecting about 60 units of restaurants and retail for this mixed development. In terms of the site plan, we are seeing most of the units being north-south orientation except stack 20 and 29, which is the usual preferred orientation. And for some of the units, you're expecting a bit of a premium, especially for those with greenery facing towards the south. In terms of the unit mix, we are looking at a 2 to 5 bedroom kind of mixture with the starting bedroom layout of the 624 square feet with the 2-bed, 2-bath. So we are continuously seeing developer moving towards a bigger bedroom type kind of layout. And this is a function of the supply of 1 bedroom currently in the resale market. Developer has allocated about 40% for 2 bedrooms, 35% for 3 bedrooms, 20% for 4 bedrooms, and 2% on 5 bedrooms. So if we were to look at Parktown Residence, which is in Tampines North as a comparison, whose land bid is 885 with the average price of 2,369, and we add it back to Pinery Residences, we are expecting Pinery to sell at an average of about 2,500 per square foot. And if you notice, the highest transacted so far in Parktown Residence is 2,006. So how does the price compare? If we take 2,005 as the benchmark or the expected average price, we are expecting the 2 bedrooms to start from about 1.5 million, the 3 bedroom to be about 2 million, and also the 4 bedroom about 2.8 million. Moving on to the floor plan analysis, we are analyzing the show flat units. So the 2 bedroom plus study 700 square feet. As you enter, you'll be able to have a tuck-in kitchen on your left. And then as you further go in, it will be a 2.8 meter wide living and dining area. So for the dining area, you're able to put a 4-seater dining table. And with the typical dumbbell layout, you maximize your space in the entire unit. But one thing I would prefer is actually for the study to be on the other side, because now you will need to utilize both the study and bedroom together, rather than actually having study as a standalone where you can use it for either a storage area or even use it as a small little room. And then as we move on to the 3 bedroom with bomb shelter and study, 1055 square feet. You enter with a proper kitchen and bomb shelter on your left, as well as a 3-meter wide living dining area. So this is a classic portrait layout with your bedroom stuck to one side. What the developer has done differently is to actually have a study area in your master bedroom. So I think with more and more people or younger couples preferring to have walk-in wardrobe, you can either use it as a study area or use it as a walk-in wardrobe without removing the wall. So I think this is a very interesting layout that you can consider for the 1055 square feet. And as we move on to the 4-bedroom, 1389 square feet, the study is given back to the living and dining to give you a 4.6 meter wide kind of living dining space. So I will call this a wider portrait because you actually can have your living area to be 4.5 meter and easily put in an 80-inch TV to enjoy with your family. And in terms of the bedroom, they give you both the junior master as well as the bedroom 3 together, and with a 4th bedroom that does not compromise in size. The layouts are pretty typical and traditional, which most of the market would be able to accept. Then the key question is this: is there a need to pay a premium for a mixed or integrated development? I think today what we want to do is actually to compare a couple of projects. What we will try to do is make it as similar as possible. So we try to compare projects that are actually side by side and also launching in the same period of time, so that on hindsight, we actually can look at it and see how much appreciation or what are the reasons and why it didn't perform as well. So let us first compare Watertown. This is Waterway Point, so pretty iconic in the Northeast Line, as well as Park Centros. So these projects launched about 6 months apart, both in 2012. So if we actually look at the price premium, Watertown sold at an average of 1216 per square foot compared to Park Centros at 988 per square foot. And actually, they are almost side by side of each other. However, when it came to the resale, you can actually see that Park Centros does better compared to Watertown. And in terms of the rental difference, it is actually very much negligible because both are transacting at about $4 per square foot. The only reason why Watertown 2-bedroom actually fare worse is actually the layout for the 2-bedroom is not a typical layout because they are kind of like a loft layout where the common room requires you to build a loft to fit a bed inside. So in terms of the preference, tenants tend to move towards the typical ones, which is the ones in Park Centros. As we move closer towards the city fringe, we look at Park Colonia. This is in Woodleigh and Woodleigh Residences. So this time, the neighboring condo launches first, and then Woodleigh Residences, which is an integrated hub. So what we see, Park Colonia sold at an average of $1,782 per square foot compared to Woodleigh Residences, which sold at $2,000 per square foot. So again, about $200 per square foot difference. However, when it came to the resale market, the difference is $428 in Woodleigh Residences compared to $485. Then the question is actually maybe because Woodleigh have more 2-bedrooms, for example, that's why they fare worse because the smaller bedroom type tend to see a slower capital appreciation. So we take those out and we compare it for the 3 and 4 bedrooms in Woodleigh Residences compared to the Park Colonia 3 to 5 bedrooms. You notice $710 per square foot increase for the Park Colonia 3 to 5 bedrooms compared to $525. And again, Woodleigh Residences, quite popular in the Northeast Line because of the Woodleigh Mall. You notice that the rental difference is again very much negligible, between $6 and mostly $7. So when it comes to a 2-bedroom, you are looking at 700 square feet, about $200-300 difference. So why then would someone pay for an integrated development? Because what we can conclude from this is that buyers are willing to pay a lower premium and accept a 3 to 5 minutes walk towards the MRT or the integrated project. Then does it pay to wait? If we look at it, The next one is Lentor Modern, launched in September 2022, and Lentor Hills that launched in July 2023. 9 months apart. But what we notice here is, even though Lentor Modern sold at 2,125 per square foot, we also notice that the average selling price for Lentor Hills is not cheaper, because developers also notice such a trend and are willing to sell it a little bit higher, and this is still accepted by the market. So it doesn't mean that waiting will benefit you. It is important to understand where is the market trending towards and how can you take advantage of the market at this current juncture. So as a buyer today, the closest option, if you bring it back to Pinery Residences, is this: Revel Tampines, the executive condo that is also previewing in March 2026. So if you're interested in Revel Tampines, feel free to check out our video link that is linked below. We are looking at 1,009 per square foot on average for Revel. This is estimated and based on our own estimation only. So this is a disclaimer. Do not quote us. And Pinery at 2,005. So if you notice, there is actually a price gap. For a 3-bedroom premium, you're looking at entering at about 1.6 to 1.7 compared to 2 million in Pinery. The $300,000 per square foot is much safer if you're able to enter Revel. And at the same time, for the 4-bedroom, you're looking at almost 2 million to enter Revel Tampines compared to 2.8 million in Pinery Residences. So if you are looking at strong potential upside, then the choice based on this would actually be Revel Tampines, the executive condo. Of course, there is a caveat. For someone to be eligible for an EC today, you need to have a maximum income ceiling cap of 16,000. And at the same time, with the mortgage servicing ratio requirement, which means that someone combined income of 16,000, your maximum loan of $1 million, you will need to fork out a much higher down payment and more CPF in order to finance the purchase. So today, if someone doesn't meet this requirement of an executive condo, then you are left with either Pinery Residences or the other options in the market. So what are the other options? One of the options is to look at a post-launch in the Tampines township, or look for something similar in the city-fringe, more towards the town area, or look at a resale condominium in the area. As a buyer today, these are possible options that you can consider. First, the integrated project, Parktown Residences, or a similar project in the RCR with similar price range, or the newest resale project in Tampines, which is, in this case, Treasure at Tampines. So for Parktown Residences, you are looking at a 3-bedroom premium at 2.5 or closer to 2.6 million, which also something similar if you consider something in Pinery, or the 4-bedroom at 3.2 or close to 3.3 million, which will garner you something that is similar for the bigger 4-bedroom types in Pinery. So these are the options that you can consider with that kind of price range. So if we compare the layout, actually what I really like, personal preference for Parktown Residence, is actually the white portrait living dining area, because I am able to host people, and with the 4.5 meter wide living area, I'm able to have a lot of space to host friends and family. And especially with the depth of the balcony, right, I can actually also move my dining table outside without sacrificing my dining table, and I can actually put an 8-seater dining table outside. So this gives me very, very functional and usable layout that you can actually foresee yourself living for the next 10 to 15 years. And that's where the 100 square feet actually kind of compensates. And this is also almost at the same kind of entry price if you are looking at entering Pinery Residences 4-bedroom. Next, the option in the city range, one of them is actually Bloomsbury Residences, because you're looking at 2,500 per square foot entry also. And in terms of the price range, you are also looking at a similar quantum. Granted, Pinery Residences would actually be more convenient because it's 2 to 3 minutes walk to the MRT. And the downtown line is also quite convenient. You also have 3 major coffee shops in the vicinity. And most importantly, you have a park which is at Bedok Reservoir that you can go and cycle and jog in. This is also lifestyle. And then finally, we also compare with the resale option. In Treasure at Tampines, the 3 to 5 bedroom, you are looking at a 3 bedroom already transacting close to 2 million. The 4 bedroom already transacted at 2.5 million. And the 5 bedroom transacting at 2.88. The highest transacted in the 5 bedroom so far is actually 2.988 million. So you're looking at about close to 3 million range. So if you have the budget to buy a 3 bedroom in Pinery, you will also have the option of buying a 4 bedroom in Treasure at Tampines. Vice versa, a budget to buy a Pinery 4 bedroom will also mean you have the option of Treasure at Tampines 5 bedroom. What is the difference? The difference is that Treasure at Tampines requires you to walk 10 to 12 minutes to the nearest MRT. Granted, it has a round market beside it. It also has a wet market. So in terms of convenience and amenities, the only thing that is lacking is actually the convenience to the MRT. And actually, if we look deeper, a transaction of $1,847 per square foot, Treasure TOP in 2023, the lease started from 2018. So if we were to bring back 1,847 per square foot to 99 years lease, we are getting about 2,009 per square foot. And this is actually not harmonized. So you need to times 1.07 in order to get a comparison with a harmonized project. And you also need to add in the factor of renovation. Let's say Treasure at Tampines is rather newer, so lesser renovation required. So we take it as $50 per square foot. So you're looking at an entry of about 2,200 to 2,300 per square foot for a slightly older project. When it comes down to this option, I think it's very, very personalized to your own needs and what are your requirements. For some, you need something with clear family support and infrastructure. So Tampines might be the choice because maybe your brother or your sister is staying there. Your parents are also in the area. And you have schools, you have amenities that is required compared to something in the RCR where it's slightly further from MRT and amenities. So it's very, very personalized. And if you want, feel free to message us for a one-to-one consultation, no obligations, just to really understand your needs and provide the right recommendation for you because everyone has different needs. Then why would someone still consider Pinery Residences? Because we have already just analysed that the neighbouring condos tend to do better compared to an integrated project. So if we compare for Pinery Residences, would Reval Tampines actually be a direct competition? Actually, it is not because you need 3 years to build Reval and then another 5 years for MOP. So actually, Pinery Residences will continue to set the benchmark, and especially after the seller stamp duty of 4 years, people will start selling, and actually Reval will follow Pinery instead. And for Reval buyers, the potential of a supernormal profit is a function of how well Reval does. For people that are looking in Tampines, there is also the support. In terms of HDB support, you're looking at the Tampines North in terms of the entire new township, and at the same time, a mixture of older and newer HDBs. Newer ones are over here. This will actually support because buyers that exit from the BTO have the aspiration to own a condo will come in to consider Pinery Residences. And in terms of the newer ones, these are the transactions in 2025 for the newer HDBs that TOP in 2015. You're looking at the average price of 3-room to be almost 600,000, 4-room at almost 760,000, and 5-room at almost 900,000. These are average prices. So if somebody bought in a BTO at 300 to 500,000, you have the ability to have the cash proceeds to actually upgrade into a condominium. Whether it's a resale or even Pinery, they have the propensity. Of course, the income need to be able to support the loan. And in Tampines Precinct, the resale condo support is also pretty strong. What we have seen is an uptick in the volume of transactions from 2021 onwards and averaging about 600 to 700 transactions in the resale and subsale market. So if we look at the resale, transactions in 2025 for Tampines resale and subsale segment. There's a total transaction of 768. And if we filter it for the TOP, there is a tendency for people to buy into newer. And for Pinery Residences, it is the newest on the block, and it's actually the closest to Tampines West MRT, close to a park, close to amenities, and it is within 1 km of a good school. And why would people buy in from you at TOP? This is because not everyone is able to buy at launch due to financial reasons or logistical issue, because not everyone willing to pay additional buyer stamp duty or to actually sell their place, rent another place, and then move into a new place 4 years down the road. And if you continue to wait, what will you have options for? The next two upcoming projects in the east are Villa Bay, which is at Bayshore. This sold at 1388 per square foot per plot ratio, and Bedok Rise at 1330 per square foot per plot ratio. That will also mean that the developers will sell from about 2006, 2007 per square foot onwards. So by waiting and missing out on Pinery Residences, it means that you will need to pay a further premium for the upcoming projects in the east. So if you are considering Pinery Residences, one thing to take note, in terms of the downtown line, the only other outside core region integrated hub is actually Hillian Residences. Otherwise, next one is Pinery Residences. So if you want to find something that is convenient and along the downtown line, Pinery is the next opportunity. Of course, not all projects are similar, not all projects are identical, and each individual have their own personal needs. So feel free to message us and reach out if you have any clarification. If you like our content, do feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Bye!